I think it is now worth assessing whether the Asterisk plan really worked.
Right.
And whether this is just a reflection of Thunderbolts being a title not the average Marvel moviegoer
and
knows.
Maybe some confusion with a character that has been in the MCU and was in the previous film, but not related to the title of the movie. Now, I think Marvel Studios was, they didn't have much of a choice. It's possible that when they were developing this film, the script was called New Avengers, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't market that movie. You can't title the movie New Avengers before people have seen it, right?
Yeah, I guess let's talk about that. Can you?
I don't know.
Like what?
I think if they had, I think if Kevin Feige had come up in that D23 presentation where they announced this film and showed the, not concept art, but the cast sort of like drawing and said, this is the New Avengers movie, I think people would lose their minds in a negative way.
Yeah, there's no way to spin that without people having follow-up questions that put a negative stink on the movie,
right?
Or other movies in the franchise. Because if you call it the New Avengers before Captain America: Brave New World comes out, it pisses a lot of people off and confuses a lot of people about what Sam Wilson's status is in the Avengers. Because he's Captain America, shouldn't he be the leader of the Avengers? And sure enough, that movie ends with him being tasked with putting the Avengers together. Like you could do something kind of tongue-in-cheek and call it the Other Avengers or something like that.
People thought the Dark Avengers for a little while.
Yeah, the Dark
Avengers. It doesn't feel quite right either.
Yeah, Backup Avengers, Avengers B-sides, B Avengers. I think the other guys the Other Avengers reminds me of the Other Guys. So there's kind of like a comedic angle to it, but that's not exactly what Thunderbolts is going for. So they settled on a team named Thunderbolts. I would argue that probably, 4 out of 5 people who go see Marvel movies don't think of Thunderbolt, the word, as a connection to Thaddeus Ross.
I agree with you.
That's a bigger deal in the comics than it is ever in the MCU.
Especially we hadn't seen, for your average moviegoer, was it Civil War maybe the last time that, they're not watching Black Widow maybe or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The last time they saw that character, and it's a different actor and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I think what they settled on was Thunderbolts, and that's like what the movie got greenlit as back in 2021, 2022. They announced it at D23 2022. They're like, we're doing a Thunderbolts movie. And that decision by Kevin Feige and his brain trust probably came out of some experimentation after Avengers Endgame and going into phase 4 and trying to have different groups of like returning characters, wanting to have a team up of these figures that we saw in Black Widow and in the Falcon the Winter Soldier. I really think after the Falcon the Winter Soldier, everyone at Marvel Studios saw the numbers at a Disney Plus. They saw an inflated number for the Falcon the Winter Soldier and thought that that show was way more popular than it actually was, and said yes to like follow-ups in a lot of different ways for a lot of the characters and storylines from that. And they're like, all right, great, we're going to take Val. Julie Louis-Dreyfus' Val, we love her. We're going to build a movie where she's kind of the Nick Fury, a corrupt Nick Fury figure. We're gonna bring back Wyatt Russell. We're gonna bring back Anthony Mackie and Joaquin Torres are gonna be in this other thing. But then Bucky's coming back, and then with Black Widow, they just really like David Harbour, and they saw how David Harbour was blowing up, and they saw
Florence Pugh's a star as soon as you see her in that movie.
Chance to like make a movie with Florence Pugh is a pretty exciting thing. So they're like, okay, there was enough reasons to say yes to this. And they just had a script and a vision from Jake Schreier and from Joanna Kahlo and Eric Pearson, and they liked that movie, and we liked this movie. So it ended up being a success. But it's not a typical kind of like pitch to the Marvel viewers, because the title of Thunderbolts really just comes from what is like almost an A24 style movie script about Yelena's youth soccer team.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a beautiful thing, but you just never see Marvel movies do that. And it's one of the reasons I think we liked it. But for the average Marvel film goer who's like thinking whether they should spend $20 and potentially get a babysitter for the weekend, they're thinking, what is this?
Right.
Like, is this what I expect from Marvel Studios? Yeah. And to have a successful Marvel Studios production, you do need to, overcome that threshold the way Multiverse of Madness did, even though I think that was a lesser movie than Thunderbolts was.
Do you think the Red Room has a rec soccer league?
Is it fair? Is it just Dreykov and Melina?
The losers all get shot at the end of the game.
Oh, that goalie! I would not want to be the goalie.
Yeah,
it's the anti-Ted Lasso coaching method, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Just it's every episode's bleak. And you're right. We're talking about the box office of this film, but for Marvel Studios too, I wonder if obviously like box office has to unfortunately be the end goal for a lot of these movies, right? But what this movie did really successfully is it took a bunch of characters that not too many people cared so much about, with the exceptions of a few here and there, and made them really compelling. And now my sort of like biggest criticism of phases 4 and 5 have been like, I'm not really connected to many of these characters. Mm-hmm. Some of them totally, like some of them absolutely work. But for a lot of them, especially the ones in the movie that we watched, in Thunderbolts, I couldn't really care less if they were going to be in Doomsday or not. And now we got the Doom chairs, the Avenge chairs, whatever you want to call it. And people were like, oh, okay, I guess all these Thunderbolts jabronis are going to be in Doomsday. After watching that film, I am so excited to see these characters come back. So like, Marvel Studios obviously can take a lot of, wins from Thunderbolts. And I think that is probably chief among them.
Yeah. I hope that they don't look at some of these box office numbers and just learn the wrong lessons from it. I think really, even when it comes to the marketing, I loved the marketing campaign for this movie.
Very fun.
And without this marketing campaign, it would not have cleared $300 million globally. I think it did work. I think the Asterisk did work. I think the New Avengers, kind of retitling it New Avengers after 4 days, I think it made the movie more successful because it was truly organic. It did tell the story that the movie was telling.
Right.
And I think when marketing fails, it's when they're trying to communicate a different message and they're trying to make up for something.
It has an A- cinema score, which, is kind of a weird metric, but it is like a lot of the times, did the audience get their expectations met from the marketing material? It's sort of like cinema scores is maybe the closest metric that gets you that information.
Right. We've seen examples of cinema scores having like C and D.
For good films.
And often it's because audiences were misled by the marketing.
Right.
That's usually the reason. It's usually when there's some kind of really dark ending where a lead character gets violently killed or something like that. Or it's just like surprisingly violent. Sometimes just film goers are like, I wasn't expecting that.
We just did an episode of The Break Room about phase 1 and 2 movie trailers, and like Age of Ultron, I think, is the classic Marvel example of like a really dark trailer and the film just doesn't quite go there and people are expecting a little bit of a different tone.
Yeah. Is there a recent Marvel movie that you feel like the marketing was a little deceptive? Definitely examples of Marvel trailers oversharing what's in the movie.
You did a great video on the deep dive about like actual trailer deception in terms of like the characters from Spider-Man No Way Home being visual effects out or Hulk not appearing in Avengers Infinity War in the same way or whatever it is.
I think Sony does this a lot. I think the trailers for like
Madam Web, a lot of the Spumsy trailers had posters of Spider-Man in the background.
Yeah, the Morbius trailer I think is the worst offender here. They really marketed this as a Spider-Man crossover movie, and the movie had nothing to do with that. Arguably the Madam Web trailer did communicate something.
We just got that report that came out a couple of days ago that I guess Peter Parker was supposed to be more Peter Parker, who's referenced in the movie, but is not even born yet, right? Apparently baby Peter Parker was going to be more of a plot line in that film, and they took it out. So I do kind of empathize with these marketing folks who are like, oh, you changed it.
Yeah.
Got it.